Hey, welcome to episode 1 of the Jack and Lily podcast.
Yes, episode 1. This is exciting.
Episode 1. It is the Genesis.
The beginning.
The beginning. This is exciting. Lily, we've been married for how long now?
6 years.
And how would you rate our marriage out of 1 and 10?
11 out of 10.
Wow, really? That's amazing. Yeah. I'm so excited to do this podcast, Lily. It's been actually 6 years in the making.
Yes.
The day we got married, I told you, I whispered at the altar. I said, we need to do a podcast.
I was the one that initiated it, but it's fine.
Hey, but here we are, and we're doing it together.
That's what matters, because we're a team.
And we have a thriving marriage, so
Yes.
that's epic. But
Praise
hey,
God.
I think the biggest thing that I'm asking myself is like, man, why now are we launching a podcast? And what stopped us from launching a podcast?
Yeah.
And I think answering the first question, and then you can chime in and share your perspective. But so why are we launching a podcast right now? I would say because over the last 6 years, we've had the honor of doing amazing stuff. Like having people in our house, loving on people, ministering to people, seeing people set free. We've been in ministry for 6 years. We've traveled around the world. We've done some cool stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, what is something that makes us come alive? And for me and knowing you, what makes us come alive is really seeing people's lives transformed.
For sure.
Yeah.
This is what life's about.
Absolutely.
Truly.
Like that's our purpose. Our purpose, even on everything we did, from business, from ministry, from whatever we did, it always had the mission statement stamped on it that we would equip and empower people to step into their God-given destiny.
That's exactly right. And our passion is to see people truly connected.
Yeah.
Number one, connected to God in a society where there's so much distractions. How do you connect to God? And also connection with each other. Statistically, we see that we may be the most connected generation because of social media. But at the same time, it's the most lonely generation. So what's the missing link? How are we truly connecting with each other? Is it just surface level? Oh, I follow you on Instagram. Or are we actually connecting heart to heart? And that's our passion.
Yeah.
And also connecting within ourselves. Like, hey,
So good.
are you able to process your emotions? Are you able to sit with yourself and just have that time even with the Lord? Because if you can't spend time alone, you can't really spend time with the Lord. Hey.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. And I think you're spot on with that, Lily. Like our heart is not just that people would be spiritually doing well and they would be connected with God. But they would also be emotionally doing well with their connection with themselves, their spouse, within their business, within their employment, that in every realm of life that they're thriving.
Yeah.
And the way that we get there is really understanding maybe some of the roadblocks and then unpacking it, or really understanding our purpose and our destiny.
That's right.
And so we've loved to journey that with people. And it's cool right now to be doing a podcast and be able to expand our reach through social media, through media, and see people around the world transformed. And so I just get absolutely pumped up that we're stepping into this.
This is in a sense of our invitation of you joining our table, where we get to chat, just be very real and raw. So welcome on in. Thank you for joining.
Come on. And you're right, Lily, like it's taken a process to get where we are today. It's a deep inner work. Like you don't just wake up one morning and boom, you're successful in something. Like it takes a journey of unpacking, of healing, of discovering, of finding out who you are.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've gone on that deep journey together over the last 6 years.
True.
And we want to bring people, we want to bring you guys into our conversations so that you can receive wisdom and be impacted and be activated with the things that we've navigated. And that's what I want, not just a podcast of a conversation or like a good talk, but I want people to leave truly impacted and with tools that can transform their life.
And by no means are we saying that we've made it, because I believe it's a lifelong journey. And like the more you're alive, the more you realize that there's always new areas of growth, new areas of being stretched, and new triggers that come up that you need to work through. But with God's grace, like He walks that out with us, and we get to grow and become. Every single day, we're just becoming more and more Christ-like.
So good. And you just went there, so I'm going to go there too. What are some things, Lily, and let's unpack this together, and I hope this is really valuable for you guys. Even though that this is the introduction to our podcast, we want to release some valuable gold nuggets for you. But for our journey, Lily, in 6 years of going deep, understanding who we are, and now launching a podcast, what are some things that have stopped us? Some things that have been an obstacle, some things that have been a limitation?
Yeah, one of the things that first comes to my mind is definitely fear.
Yeah, that's good.
Fear of man, fear of failure, fear of the unknown, to name a few. And I think it's just crazy how fear can really limit you.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in different areas of my life, even starting with relationship and having a baby, like how fear literally wants to limit you and like hold you back from your destiny, from your God-given purpose. So in regards to this project, it was definitely a lot of fear involved of like, do we have what it takes? I don't know. Like, we know God's calling us, but like, I don't know. I don't think we can do it. What are people going to think? Just all these things that we've had to navigate in our journey.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you just lean on inspiration or you lean on motivation, you will not push through this heart journey of facing fear.
Yeah.
Like, it needs to be a purpose driven thing.
That's right.
And we have this conversation a lot, but the 3 Ps of like the things that we stand on and that we had to discover. The first thing is that we needed to discover our purpose.
Yeah.
What is it that we want to leave as a legacy for our son, our children, our children's children, and for generations?
Yeah.
What is the purpose? What drives us? The second thing is, what is our power? And when I say power, it's more like, what is our gifting? What is our talent? What is something that God's given us, that we can give to other people to be a blessing, to be a gift? And then the third thing is a pain point. What is it that stirs you up? Because a lot of the times when you see something that's an injustice, it's because God has put in you the skill set and the ability, the passion to be a solution to that problem.
That's good.
And so for us, I think a pain point is that we didn't want to see people feel disconnected. We didn't want to see people go through an emotional journey alone. We didn't want people to be stuck in living a life that they don't want to live and not know how to reach their purpose.
Yeah.
And so this pain point we now use as a catalyst to see lives transformed.
Yeah. And throughout our years, like, we spent times with different individuals, and whether it was when we were working with young people and youth and seeing that they're alone and they don't know how to connect and make friends, or like meeting with couples that are married and they're having a hard time connecting with each other, and it's affecting their family and affecting their marriage. And for us, it's like, man, like, that shouldn't be an issue. Let's see how we can bring the connection piece into these spaces so that people can truly thrive and grow and actually focus on fulfilling their God-given destiny. Because if you're like limited, let's say in connection within your marriage, you can't really pursue your God-given purpose because it's limiting you, because you're not at peace with your relationship, and that flows into every aspect. If you're not connected to the Lord, that's going to also limit you pursuing your purpose, because he's the one that is the gift giver.
So good.
And we're now limited. So that's our passion, and that's our pain point too, because we want people to walk in that. Yeah,
exactly. And so when we came to a place of discovering the 3 Ps, and we're like, okay, I feel like we're equipped, we're ready, we have clarity, even though that there's so much uncertainty, and even though that there's so much things that we're trying to find confidence within ourselves in, I think we then came up against this fear component.
Yeah.
And the first one you mentioned, Lily, which I think was right on, is the fear of man.
Yeah.
The fear of what people's opinions are, the fear of, not being good enough, not being able to bring value, and people saying, man, you're not good at this, you shouldn't do it. And I think that we needed to overcome that. Another fear that I had, that I navigated, was a fear of not being authentic. For me, I want to be authentic to the core in everything I do. I want to be myself. I want to express truly who I am. And so the moment that I start to feel like, oh, we're going to do this project, I don't know if that really matches who I am, I get scared, because I'm like, oh, I don't want to be out of my authentic self. And so we had to discover that, and we had to confront that. One last thing that just comes to mind, Lily, as well, is that to confront fear, you really need to bring it into the light.
Yes.
And we say this a lot in our marriage, but like, if fear is in the dark and it's not in the light, then it has authority. The way to dismantle the authority of fear is to bring it into the light and confront it.
Yeah.
You can't articulate your way around fear. You can't, imagine yourself dismantling fear. Like, you actually need to confront it. It's not a mind game. It's literally positioning yourself in a place where you're face to face with fear, you're feeling fear, and you're going through the journey of fear, and that's how you overcome it.
Yeah. And I would say like overcoming fear requires a level of faith.
Yeah.
Because if you see everything, then you don't really need faith to step into it. If you know exactly how the dice will roll, if you know exactly how it's going to work out, then you don't need faith because you're just like, okay, I know it's going to succeed. Done.
Yep.
But it's in the moments where you don't see what's in front of you. It's believing in the unseen. That's truly what requires faith. So I think it's stepping into faith and just saying, hey, I have these fears, but I trust God who is bigger than my fears. So I'm going to take a risk that's going to counterintuitive to the fear. So whatever the fear is, I'm going to come at it and say, I don't know what the outcome is, but I'm going to trust that on the other side of fear is victory.
Yeah. And that's why we're called to live the life that we're called, is because God will reveal to you what he's called you to, but he will never reveal to you the steps on how to get there. Yeah. And the question is why? And the answer is because he wants you to be fully dependent on him.
Yeah.
And so there's no way around fear other than to go through it to your destiny.
And like we know the scripture, perfect love casts out fear.
Yeah.
So it is also in the position of like, you know what? No, God loves me. I'm loved. I can't be rejected if he's the one that accepted me. So then, therefore, why should I fear the man rejecting me? So it's coming into that alignment and the truth of like, hold on. First and foremost, I'm loved as a son and daughter of God. So therefore, I can't fail.
Yeah.
Because he's already approved me.
Yeah, no, that's so good. Knowing your identity, who you are. Yeah. Well, guys, we don't want to give you too much value on the first intro. Actually, we do.
Yes,
but we want to continue it on. And so we're going to conclude today's intro podcast. And before we do that, I think it would be really cool, Lil, just to throw an activation, some type of exercise for our listeners today. And so something that comes to mind is maybe in your time, in your devotion or in your time of meditation, you can sit down and jot on a journal maybe something that's of a fear component in your life, something that's been a big fear component. And once you write it down, maybe then you can make a decision to say, I'm going to pursue confronting this fear, and I'm going to do something that's a counter to it, to oppose it so that I can overcome it.
Yeah. So like we challenge you, what is the one thing that might be stopping you from pursuing the thing that God has called you into, or a passion or a desire, and bring it to the light, put it to the surface, and also maybe share it with a friend or maybe your spouse or whoever's in your circle and be like, hey, I feel like God's calling me to this, but I have this fear associated with it. I'm bringing it to the light. This is what I'm planning to do to face it.
Come on. That's
to
so
bring
good.
Accountability.
Yeah. And so to recap that, this week, guys, we encourage you to go ahead and write down a major fear in your time of devotion or meditation, a fear that's been lingering in your life, limiting you in your life. And then after you've identified that fear, be accountable to someone to overcome it. And think of an action step of what I need to do to overcome this fear. And then this week, take mass action. Just go ahead and say, I'm going to confront this thing. I'm going to step out. I'm going to launch this thing. I'm going to talk to this individual. I'm going to start something. Confront the fear, take mass action, have someone to keep you accountable. And just in that activation, man, that could change your life.
That's right. It's in the small steps, the small beginning steps that can bring the most significant results.
Absolutely. Well, Lily, I've had fun on this intro. Guys, once again, welcome to episode 1. Welcome to the Jack and Lily podcast.
Welcome to the family.
Yeah, welcome to the fam bam. Welcome to sitting around our table and being in conversations with us. And also, if you have not yet checked out our YouTube channel, go ahead and do it. It's Jack and Lily. We also have an Instagram page, Jack and Lily, and our podcast, the Jack and Lily podcast. Yeah. Jack and Lily all around. And so feel free to go and search us up, connect with us. Would love to interact with you.
And feel free to leave a comment what you want to hear us talk about. We'd love to just interact more with you guys. And Yeah,
so good. Love you guys. We'll see you in the next episode.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Peace.